Good morning, everyone. We will begin with a prayer to Lord Ganesh. Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. In 2021, Dr. Sane had started talks about the saints of Maharashtra. That series, if you recall, somehow remained incomplete due to Kumudvaini's health. It was Kumudvaini's wish to present the women saints in this group. And Dr. Sane, who I call Dada, gave this assignment to me. So today, I will share my thoughts on Muktabai with you. She is one of the poet saints of the 13th century. Sister of Jnaneshwar, Muktabai was the youngest of 4 siblings. Most of you are aware that the kids were orphaned very early in their lives. Historical details about the year of their parents' passing are unclear, but evidence suggests that they likely were gone when the oldest child, Nivruttinath, approached the age of his thread ceremony, so about 8 years old. By that estimate, Muktabai, who was 6 years younger than Nivruttinath, must be just 2 years old when they were all orphaned. Her lifespan on earth is believed to be merely 18 years, from 1279 to 1297. In this short span, she left behind her own very unique literary legacy. There are about total of 41 or 42 abhangas or poems attributed to her. This is a very small number when compared to the works of Jnaneshwar. But when we study those abhangas, it becomes clear that one cannot judge a scholar by his or her volume of work, but rather by the content in those works. Out of the 40-something abhangas authored by Muktabai, 11 or 12 are compiled as Tatice Abhanga. These are very short verses that end with the phrase Tati Ubhada Jnaneshwara. Muktabai's unique style is highly in contrast to Jnaneshwar's. She is very direct, known to call a spade a spade. No excessively flowery language like Jnaneshwar's. She uses metaphors at a few places, but doesn't go overboard with them. Although her verses are short, the message in them is quite deep. Normally, it would take much more time to go into the depth of each of these abhangas. For today's talk, I will give you the context in which she talked to her brother, then discuss the philosophical message in the sentence Tati Ubhada Jnaneshwara. After that, I will briefly enumerate the broader topics that are covered in the 12 abhangas, touching upon a few select lines from the abhangas to highlight those topics. To understand the context of these abhangas, we first need to know the circumstances that led to her addressing her older brother Jnaneshwar with these lines. Her exact age when she recited these spontaneous verses is not clear. It could be between 5 to 9 years. I found a few references that claim she was 9 years old. By that calculation, Jnaneshwar must be 13 at the time. Whether 5 or 9, she was still a very young girl to utter such profound words of wisdom. The siblings were living through extremely difficult circumstances after the passing of their parents. They were roaming around each day, door to door, for food, as well as pleading for acceptance into society. As they did this, they received extremely harsh treatment from the community. The Orthodox Brahmins bullied, kind-hearted people to not give food or fuel to these kids. They verbally abused the kids at every opportunity. The kids were hurt but never retaliated in response. One day, however, a priest's abusive words pierced the sensitive Jnaneshwar's heart like never before. He took off from there and ran straight to their small hut, closed the door, and locked himself inside. That thatched door is called Tati. Once the other siblings realize that he has barricaded himself inside, they began to get concerned about his well being and called out to him several times, pleading him to open the door. But he wouldn't move. At that time, little Muktabai began to talk to him in her unique way. The tone, as I mentioned earlier, is very direct and succinct, yet filled with sweetness, authoritative yet respectful, logical yet humane, sometimes with a touch of cynicism, then resorting to praise, and in the end, humble and apologetic about giving her peace of mind to an elder brother. Tati Ughada Jnaneshwara. This is the line that repeats at the end of each of the 12 Abhangas. You can now understand why these verses are referred to as Tatiche Abhanga. Well, now we will try to understand what Tati and Tati Ughada means. The literal meaning is open the door, O Jnaneshwar. However, besides the literal meaning, there is also a figurative or symbolic meaning implied here. Tati is the door that separates inner dwelling from the outer world. Whether physical or mental, that door is important and necessary for each of us. It allows us a space for privacy. It is not just physical privacy. From time to time, we need to turn our attention inside and introspect. We need to withdraw our focus from the exterior to review and reflect on the internal affairs of our existence. But it is not healthy to stay shut out from the world for extended or indefinite periods. After some cleansing, rearranging, and rebooting our apparatus, we need to step out to shoulder our social responsibilities. Ordinarily, the mind and intellect are not aware of the innermost door that connects with the spirit or Atman or the individual soul from the universal spirit. Once found, this door must also be opened to recognize the light that illuminates the thoughts and knowledge. In the final stage of enlightenment, this door would open irreversibly. After that, the concept of inside and outside in relation to the mind, the world, and the spirit will be permanently dissolved. In the present scenario, Jnaneshwar had not closed the door with a healthy intention for introspection. Overwhelmed with the negativity in the outside world, Jnaneshwar had retreated to solitude. There was a grudge against the person or people who were hurtful. There was a wounded mind inside that called for appropriate nursing back to health. This emotional crisis had overshadowed his awareness of true divine self as well as the bigger purpose in his life. Muktabai's maternal instincts picked up on this. The little sister who normally addressed her older brother as Jnana Dada here began to address him as Jnaneshwara. There is adoration and respectfulness in both the terms, but Jnaneshwara is used deliberately. It breaks the limitation or confines of a brother sister relationship. She has assumed the role of a mother and a teacher here. Yet, she is acknowledging the high qualifications of the individual she is lecturing. Oftentimes, we've become forgetful of this when interacting with close relatives. Above all, she is reminding him that his name literally means the all knowing Ishvara, or God of the highest knowledge. By doing so, she is simply reminding him of his true identity and boosting his spirits to rise and return to the task which awaits him. Thus, Tati Ugada Jnaneshwara is a direct call to give up the ignorance about one's identity and purpose. Some wisdom or knowledge is innate, perhaps gathered from past lives, while some is acquired through interaction with the world in the present life. All the knowledge that is gathered, that is assimilated, must be shared and put to use for the greater good. Get out of this phase of ignorance. Come out and share your knowledge with people who want to know and who can benefit, she is telling her beloved brother. Now let us see what are the topics she has touched upon in these Abhangas. Foremost is Brahma Vidya, the knowledge about self, which is the essence of all the Upanishads. Really, this is at the heart of all subtopics discussed in these Abhangas. After Tati Ugada Jnaneshwara, perhaps the second most well-known line from these Abhangas is Vishwa Pata Brahma Dora. The universe or Vishwa, she compares to a pata, screen or canvas. This canvas is woven with the thread or dora of Brahman, she proclaims. Brahman, thus, is the material that makes up the entire universe. In just 4 words, this girl of 8 or 9 years sums up the Upanishad teachings or fundamental concept of Vedanta, almost like the Mahavakya, Sarva Khalvidam Brahma. As we skim through rest of her verses, we find that this basic teaching, Vishwapata Brahmadora, is like a thread through which other subtopics are put together like beads in a necklace. Building on the premise of the flawless nature of Brahman, she proceeds to explain the complex topic of Maya. Uthe vikara, Brahmi mula, avaghe मायेचे गबाळ. The flaw or vikar, uthe vikara, the flaw miraculously arises in the original or mool Brahman through the power of Maya, which then creates an illusion of multiplicity. Multiplicity looks messy, gabal, she calls it gabal. Thus, all mess of duality and the confusion in understanding Brahman is because of Maya. Uthe vikara brahmi mula, avaghe mayece gabal. When this Maya is eliminated through rational and clear thinking, the entire universe will be seen as Brahman alone. Maya samula nure jeva, when Maya is uprooted completely, Vishwa Brahma hoila tevha, the entire universe will become Brahman or appear as Brahman. Now, she describes this process of seeing Brahman everywhere after cleaning out Maya as acquiring pure knowledge or Shuddha Jnana. Then explains the benefit of this pure knowledge. Investing in good thinking and good deeds brings long-term results, long-term returns. It is not just a matter of one lifetime. Iha paraloki sukhi, shuddha jnana jatse mukhi. Notice how smoothly and cleverly she has touched upon the concepts of rebirth and moksha. Iha means this world. Paraloki is next world. Sukhi is happy, content, blissful. Iha paraloki sukhi, shuddha jnana, pure knowledge, janse mukhi. one who has pure knowledge on his lips, who knows about pure knowledge. So, a holy and a self realized person's state of peace and joy are carried over into the next realm after the physical body is discarded. Those who have acquired pure knowledge shall be blissful here, now, and forever. They are freed from the cycles of birth and death because they have become one with the essence of Brahman. Knowledge with conviction that there is no real object separate from us, therefore nothing left to acquire, brings full contentment and bliss. That is what moksha is all about. A conscious and lasting freedom from desires and dissolution of sense of finitude or incompleteness, thus bringing about a permanent end to the mental culture of worries, fear, and unrest. ऐसा उमज आदि अंती, मग सुखी भावे संती. A sage who has arrived at a firm conclusion or decisive understanding of Brahman and Maya, and therefore the reality behind the creation and dissolution of this universe of duality. Aisa umaza adi anti, beginning and end of the universe, one who has understood, would be able to forever rest in total peace. Maga sukhi bhave santi. To recapitulate the three concepts discussed so far, Brahma, Vidya, Maya, and Moksha. So Vishwapata Brahmadora, then the universe described as Avaghe Mayetse Gabala or Maya's mess, the trick of Maya responsible for the origin of the universe, and then urging to understand this trick with conviction, so Brahman becomes evident instead. The snake is decisively determined to be a rope. And how, with this Shuddha Jnana, one attains moksha or becomes iha paraloki sukhi. I'm tempted to remind you again here that this is a girl who is not even 10 years old, who probably has no memory of her parents because they passed away when she was barely 2 years old, and who is spontaneously teaching this philosophy to a 13-year-old sibling. The next big category she handles is what are the hallmarks of a saint? Professor Ram Bachchan has been giving us such thoughtful insights about the characteristics of saints in his current series of talks. Last Sunday, Dr. Sane touched upon these characteristics while discussing the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Muktabai's definition of a saint is very much inclusive of what has been discussed so far in these talks. Therefore, without going into too much details, I will include just two prominent pointers from Muktabai on this subject. But before that, one interesting point I would like to share here is that the word Santa came into use in the 13th century. Tulsidas, whose writings Professor Ram Bachchan refers to in his lectures, belonged to the 16th through the 17th centuries. Sant Kabir belonged to early 16th century. All literature prior to the 13th century, that is before the time of Jnaneshwar and his siblings, uses other terms like Jnani, Sannyasi, Sthita Prajna, Bhakta, Yogi, Karma Yogi, Sadhu, Siddha, Rishi, Muni, Maharishi, Sadguru, etc. Tati's Abhanga are considered as one of the earliest recorded teachings that use the term Santa. Also note that these are composed prior to the Jnaneshwari. Now let us look at the two pointers from Muktabai about how a Santa should be. First one, Vishwarage zhale vanhi, santi sukhe bhave pani. In a world filled with unrest, agitation, in a world raging with the heat of passions and anger, a Santa must remain cool like water. Santi sukhe bhave pani. He should be capable of diffusing their anger by his wisdom and unshakable composure. During last week's talk, someone had brought up to Dr. Sane about situations where others criticize us or pass judgments on us. Each of us, from time to time, gets worked up by harsh and often unfair criticism. Remember the context here of Tatice Abhanga. Jnaneshwar had gotten upset because someone's harsh words had bothered him. Muktabai's approach to it is Shabda Shastra Zhale Klesha. Shabda are like weapons that can hurt. Santi Manava Upadesha. Even when the world tries to provoke you with pointed words and insults, a Santa tries to learn from it. He takes positive lessons from the situation. So first pointer was Vishwa Rage Zhale Vanhi. The Vishwa is on fire because of anger and passions. Santi Sukhe Bhave Pani. Staying calm when there is unrest around you. Second was Shabda Shastra Zhale Klesha. Santi Manava Upadesha. Taking positive message even from harsh words. When we study Muktabai's biography, we come across instances where she bluntly uncovered the hypocrisy in notable spiritual figures of her time, like Sant Namdev and a yogi named Tsangdev. She later became the spiritual guru to Tsangdev. You can imagine what a distinction it must be for a woman in those times to become a guru. And she wasn't even past teenage at the time. There are references in Namdev's Abhangas about how Muktabai brought him to his senses. With utmost humility, he has paid glowing tributes to her in his writings. In keeping with her personality, Muktabai has made clear-cut statements on how to recognize fake santa. Vari Bhagava Zhala Name. Antari Vashya Kela Kame. Bhagwa means saffron, referring to the saffron robes that ascetics commonly wear. So here she is saying simply outward changes are insufficient and meaningless. Deeper work is required. Vari Bhagwa Zhala Name Antari Vashya Kela Kame. Overcoming compulsive desires for material possessions and any personal gains is a must for anyone to qualify as a santa. If desires rule the heart, it is a sign of fake sainthood. And sooner or later, such a person and his falsehood will be exposed. त्याला म्हणू नये साधू, जगी विटंबना बाधू. So he will face ridicule at some point. Showing one image outside and being something else underneath is hypocrisy or dambha. Accordingly, she tells her brother, Asha dambha, avaghe avara, tati ughada jnaneshwara. Asha is expectation. Dambha is hypocrisy. Work on your frivolous, endless, unreasonable expectations and hypocrisy. Bring them under your control. Avaghe avara, bring them under control. It is amusing to see her almost headmistress-like fashion, admonishing Jnaneshwar or at other times Namdev or Tsangdev when they deviate from honorable or wise behavior. The topic of Santa can be extrapolated as a guide towards self-improvement for ordinary people. Under this broad topic is the issue of anger management and self-control. Another topic she addresses is how to stay grounded. Like a brilliant lawyer, Muktabai uses Brahma Vidya to make an argument against anger. We are all Brahman. Who are we going to get upset with? Rage bharave kavanashi, apana Brahma sarvadeshi. Or who should we argue with? All misunderstandings, all duality is a mischief of Maya. Vada ghalawa kavanala. Who should we argue with? Avagha dvaitacha ho ghala. Ghala is mischief. Dvaita is duality. So everything is a mischief of duality. If only the world had this wisdom, today there would be no wars, isn't it? We are intrinsically the same race. Why do we fight amongst ourselves? At another place on the same issue, she says, put aside your worries and anger. Let knowledge shine through. Chinta krodha mage sara. Tati ugada ज्ञानेश्वरा. There is a popular Marathi proverb, गर्वाचं घर खाली. Excess and undue pride or ego will diminish your position or value in the eyes of others. Let's see how Muktabai teaches about staying grounded. एके उंचपण केले, एक अभिमाने गेले. One tries to show his superior to others. एके उंचपण केले, एक अभिमाने गेले. His arrogance, his ego leads to his downfall. If you don't want to get humiliated, don't try to be oversmart. Don't try to put other people down. इतके टाकुनी शांती धरा, ताटी उघडा ज्ञानेश्वरा. Give up ego. Give up the thirst to be one up on others and be content. एक आपणच साधू झाले, येर कोण वाया गेले. A common mistake a person makes after a bit of knowledge or understanding of anything in general and spiritual advancement in particular is to feel pity for others and look down upon them. This comes from a place of arrogance. It is the emerging sattvic ego that needs to be watched closely. It is considered even more dangerous than rajasic or tamasic ego. Self-righteousness is hard to shake off because it tries to validate itself, even using scriptural references to justify one's superiority. See how cleverly again Muktabai tries to hold Jnaneshwar by his ear. You are wise today, but you may act stupidly tomorrow. Another man who you consider stupid today could become a wise man tomorrow. So stop judging people and don't let your knowledge go to your head. Eka आपण साधू झाले. One person begins a spiritual life, येर कोण वाया गेले, and points fingers at others saying they are wasting their life. Stop being vain. Give up false ideas about yourself. Recognize your shortcomings. Appreciate the good in others. Overcome your inherent biases and live in harmony with the world. मिथ्या कल्पना मागे सारा, ताटी उघडा ज्ञानेश्वरा. Mithya kalpana is false ideas. Mage sara, push aside. This needs no further explanation. Stay real, stay humble, and you will find your way. We are in an era where the latest corporate push and social activism are focusing on the principles of DEI, diversity, equality, inclusivity, while others are questioning and some even opposing it. Over 8 centuries ago, this young lady propounded these very basic concepts in no uncertain terms. Again, applying the principles of Brahmavidya. एकापासूनी अनेक झाले, त्यासी पाहिजे सांभाळिले. Multiplicity with diversity has arisen out of a single source. एकापासूनी अनेक झाले. It is our moral duty to take care of everyone. त्यासी पाहिजे सांभाळिले. We must take care of everyone. सुख सागरी वास झाला, उंच नीच काय त्याला. A person who has established himself in the bliss of his true self has freed himself from the identification with the finite characteristics of his physical and mental persona. It is impossible for him to have a bias towards others based on their physical or mental traits. Treating every person with the same dignity and respect is second nature to him. No one is high or low for him. A janitor or a CEO, a pope or a president, a judge or a convict. Everyone is equal in his eyes. Sukha sagari vasa zhala, unsa nicha kaya त्याला. These concepts are difficult to understand, let alone implement for anyone, but except those who have established in pure consciousness. बोधा करू नये अंतर, साधू नाही आपपर. Bhakti, Jnana, and Moksha, these three are birthrights of all human beings. A man of pure knowledge would understand this and not hesitate to share his knowledge with a sincere seeker without discrimination based on age, gender, race, education, wealth, power, nationality, religion, personal relationship, and such other things. He would consider it his good fortune to pass it on to any earnest student. Bodha is advice or teaching. Karunaye antara should never refrain from teaching, because for a sadhu, no one is family or stranger, special or not special, related or unrelated. Just like water would equally quench the thirst of a man or an animal, man or a woman, rich man or poor man, a santa would share his wisdom and kindness with all alike. Bodha karunaye antara, sadhu nahi apapara. From the topic of DEI, this same couplet talks about yet another important issue, giving back to the community. Bodha karunaye antara. Whatever wisdom you have, give it unconditionally. Never hold it back from someone who can benefit from it. Don't let personal bias stop you from sharing with a deserving student. Worldly life must come to a full circle by sharing with the world that what you have acquired in this world, whether it is wealth or wisdom, skills or knowledge, it must not die with you. It must be passed on. That too with a sense of purpose, responsibility, compassion, humility, gratitude, and grace. But before we talk about giving a more basic rule is that we cannot give to anyone anything that we don't have, whether it is a tangible thing like food or money, or intangibles like confidence, hope, peace, happiness, knowledge, or wisdom. So she rightly says to her brother or any aspirant or spiritual seeker that first you secure a permanent seat of infinite bliss or endless peace. Then you can pass it on to others. Sukha sagara apana bhave, jaga bodhe niva vave. Bodh, as I mentioned earlier, is advice or teaching. Niva vave is a very interesting word she uses here. It refers to natural cooling of hot liquids or foods without applying any additional measures. A person who is established in peace and has good knowledge of his divine nature can just naturally calm down another person who is agitated for whatever reason. His simple presence and inherent wisdom can effortlessly influence a change in others. He does not need to sweat over changing the world. Devote your life to uplift other people's lives. Don't be envious of those who are doing better than you. Take joy in seeing the progress, prosperity, and welfare of others. Jiva jivasi pai dyawa. Give your lives for other people. Jiva jivasi pai dyawa. Maga karu naye heva. Heva is envy. When we board an airplane, we are instructed to put on our seat belts, then help young kids put on theirs. During low cabin pressure, we are to put on our own oxygen masks, then put on the mask for the child with us. Learn to live well and then help those who are seeking to live better. Taranopaya chitti dhara. Tati ughada jnaneshwara. Taranopaya. It is a term that refers to a solution or means to escape from danger of some kind. Tarane means to float or to survive. The question is, survive what? Survive the ups and downs of life. Survive the sufferings of a mortal life. Survive the infinite rounds of life and death. Knowledge of the Atman or eternal self is the solution to end the suffering. So get a firm grip on this knowledge, own it, live it, and end your own turmoil first. But don't stop there. Your job doesn't end there. तुम्ही तरुणी विश्वतारा, ताटी उघडा ज्ञानेश्वरा. Learn to swim in the ocean of life and teach others to do so. She is persuading Jnaneshwar to quit being impulsive and immature, tells him to get wiser, and set an example for others. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes this with the term karma sangraha, making your life a model for good people to emulate. You don't need to do anything special. Emulate the saints, then good people will emulate you. Simple as that. Dr. Sane often quotes the fifth shlok from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, as being Kumudvaini's most favorite out of the entire Gita. Uddhare dat manatmanam, natmanam avasadayet. Atmaiva yatmano bandhur, atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Muktabai too tackles with the issue of valuing self-efforts. She upholds the truth of the universe that everything we need to achieve requires efforts. It is human tendency to expect the easy way or to be served things ready on a platter. Her no-nonsense attitude dispels this notion in one swift motion. You cannot buy skills or means for living in any market, she says point blank. Work for it. Avaghi sadhana hatavati mole milat nahi hati. Sadhana's tools, hatavati skills. So any and every tool and skill, mole milata nahi, hati is market. You cannot buy it in any market. Self-efforts are required for acquiring tools and honing skills for living. Those who have achieved greatness have done it with their efforts. From the discussion so far, we can see the categories range from occult sciences like Brahma Vidya, Maya, etc., to practical living. There is a seamless integration of logic, ethics, psychology, sociology, science, and spirituality. No matter how rudimentary a student's intellectual capacity may be at the beginning, a sincere study of these abhangas is bound to influence positive outcomes. The more I have delved into it, I see a lot of similarity of this text with the Bhagavad Gita, considering the wholesome nature of the teachings contained in these 12 abhangas. This is a very practical guide for navigating through life. It is a handbook for the total perfection of any individual, a true gem amongst the literary works of saints of Maharashtra. I will close with two lines from the last of the Tatise Abhanga, where Muktabai suddenly changes her tone from being the disciplinary headmistress to an apologetic youngster. कोणी कोणास शिकवावे, सार साधुनिया घ्यावे, लढीवाळ मुक्ताबाई, जीव मुदल ठाईचे ठाई. She says, I took the liberty to give you a sermon when you are highly qualified and already well versed in everything that I rattled off. Please forgive this offense, considering I am your beloved little sister, Ladiwala Muktabai. Just take note that my words came from a good place to simply remind you of what you already knew. I hold the same sentiment today in closing this talk and opening up for questions and discussion. Thank you all.
Madhavi, congratulations. Well done. Your Moini would have been really happy with what you just said. That's exactly what she wanted to convey, that women are just as strong, in my opinion, even stronger than men. And doesn't matter what age it is, that anybody can preach. One more small comment I'll make is, it does not come about all that knowledge that you get in this life. Because as a matter of fact, if you read the 43rd verse of the 6th chapter, Purvadhyasena Kaunteya. So even if your life, during lifetime, you don't complete your hard work, don't achieve the full understanding of the subject matter, and reach that level of total utter happiness and contentment, or moksha, you want to call it, you can still start from the point that you left in this life and come back and complete it. So this young little girl to gain this knowledge and share it with them, remind our older brother, was just amazing, but it came from all of past experience. Thanks again. Very well done. Love you. Bye bye.
It felt like in your presence to do this, Dada, it felt like Muktabai talking to Dnyaneshwar. Just
No, no, that's a pleasure. Thank you.
A great, great presentation. I
thank
didn't know about Muktabai at all, so this was just eye-opening. I like the fact that how merging into the practical world after having the knowledge is always a struggle for a lot of people. Like, okay, this is Maya, then how do you interact with Maya, knowing that not everybody that you interact with know that that's Maya, so you cannot just go and say that, hey, you don't have to worry, it's Maya. So how to balance that is always a struggle for us who are living in this practical world, having a day-to-day job and family and everything, right? So and I was thoroughly impressed with the last how Muktabai goes from giving this gyan to his brother to going back to being a little sister again, is like merging that knowledge to coming back to this practical world and showing that humility. But was Muktabai a householder, or was she? What was her later part of life was
you.
about?
She remained single throughout. All the siblings, they remained celibate, and their lives were very short. Dnyaneshwar took Samadhi, I believe he was barely 21, and Muktabai was 18. All of them had very short lives, but profound, profound spiritual work they have left behind. Coming back to your answer about, I mean, your question about how do you do in routine life, so whatever are the qualifications of a spiritually realized person, those are they happen to be the tenets by which a sadhak, when we are in the seeker phase, we are told to practice those things. Self-control, for instance, love for others, respect for others. These are things to train ourselves and practice till we reach the sadhak phase. Once you are at the sadhak phase, those become automatic traits, automatic behaviors, because that person sees everything as Brahman, right? But before that, if you see, those same traits are told to us to practice in real life. How to control anger, how to not go behind certain, even if somebody is talking, like I said in the beginning, these kids were put through harsh treatment, but they never ever spoke ill words to anybody. Such young kids, they were so restrained everywhere. So those are the things to follow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was amazed by these stories as well, and a question of a practical kind came to mind. These are we have writings that survive from that period, which was what you said, 13th century. Uh, but these were young children. How did they get written down? I mean, what is the source of the written material?
Yeah, so at least the Jnaneshwari, it was noted down when Jnaneshwar was giving talks, it was noted down.
Yeah.
Now, her teachings are very, very few, really. And it wasn't unusual at that time for people to memorize and write down later on. A lot of things were memorized and written down. Now, there are some historical inaccuracies. There are some abhangas that there is a dispute whether truly she has the authorship or they were added later on by other people. And that's true of many of the saints of that time, Santa Tukaram's writings, and that whether somebody else has added into that. So some are questionable, but some definitely have been noted down. There are recordings of those writings some places.
Interesting.
Hey, Johnny, I think good question. But that's how old Vedas were recorded too. They were passed on from father and mothers to their children by just memory, passing on through the words, and subsequently, when they could be written down and documented, initially they were written on a leaf As a matter of fact, I had a privilege to visit a library in Orissa, in Jagannath Puri, where I went to a library where all the Vedas were written on a piece of the trunk of what you call tree leaves,
Yeah.
and that was preserved that way. So till the time it was passed on by mouth from mother to daughter, mother and son, and that's how they were preserved. And of course, the
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. I was just sort of amazed that the words of a 10-year-old girl would have been memorized by somebody. You know, this is no rishi. This is a girl. So it just I'm
the
not
thing is, I
in
think
any
what
way
happened.
disputing it. I'm just amazed.
No, 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 it's amazing. And the thing is, matter of fact, as Madhavi rightly pointed out, at a young age, she became a guru or teacher to a Changdev, the famous saint at that particular time, with a tremendous following at that time. So even at his later age, he realized at a young age, this little girl had so much of knowledge and wisdom, accepted her as a guru.
Uh-huh.
And he continued to pass on that information for generations to come. So that is there are many other sources, as Madhvi has beautifully described it, but that's how the things went on by word of mouth, and
Mhm.
people never take credit for themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Doug.
Wow.
One thing I would add also that these students have subsequently established the wari, the palkis of each of these siblings. Their students, Sangdev, he initiated the annual palki of Muktabai to start from where her samadhi is in Maharashtra, from that town to Pandharpur. So Tukaram Maharaj, his followers, they started the wari to start from Dehu, and Alandi Naneshwar's wari starts. So all the successors, the people who learned from them, followed them, they have started this tradition of each of these siblings. Palki starts at the time of the annual yatra to Pandharpur. Sangdev Patsashti was composed, written by Jnaneshwar uh, to enlighten Sangdev. So he authored Sangdev Pasashti, which is 65 verses. That's why it is called Pasashti. But there is a different story for that. How Sangdev met these siblings and his arrogance had to be tamed. He had sent a blank letter to these siblings. And Muktabai actually urged Naneshwar to write on that. She taunted Sangdev that time that after 1400 years of penance, this man has remained blank. He's sending a blank letter. So she taunted him and then urged Jnaneshwar to write those verses. That's the history behind Sangdev Pasashti. But then Jnaneshwar did not take the guru role to himself. He said, Muktabai will be a better guru to you. That's how Muktabai became the guru of Sangdev. Yeah, there are long stories with these siblings, many, many stories. Very, very enlightening, very, very inspirational. That's the hardly the word to use. They were much more than that.
We're lucky to have a chance to be exposed to them, Madhavi. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.